All right, everyone. Welcome into a live edition of Buzz Beat here on YouTube. I'm Richie, joined by Brian and Spencer. As always, it is draft night. There's a lot to get to because the Hornets not only are selecting at the number 11 spot, but there was a trade that happened probably about 45 minutes prior to draft time in which Charlotte also moved up 20 spots in the second round and acquired Mason Plumlee. So a lot to talk about here. Before we jump into the draft, a couple things that we want to note real quick. First off, we need to give a couple of shout outs to our newest Buy Me a Coffee members, John Fitch, Drew Brown, Paul Hudson, Jordan Smith are our four newest members. I think they're all joined since our last episode. And then also we have a breaking news, I guess, if you want to call it. We have a newest member, a newest host of Buzz Beat here. We're going to add four here. This is our fourth member. You've heard him on the podcast before, and that is Lee Branscombe. Lee, how's it going?
Guys, I'm pumped, man. I've been a fan of the show for a long time. And then kind of once I got my own thing going and got to join as a guest a couple times, that was always a thrill. And now actually being a part of the team is the greatest thrill. So I'm grateful to you guys. And, you know, as pumped as I am about draft night, like I'm just looking forward to the cold February evening after like a back-to-back with Cleveland and Detroit. And we're like arguing about the rotation or which Martin twin should be playing more.
Yeah. Those games are really, I think, like what bonds small market like fan bases and the media that cover them. And I'll be honest with you guys, I was like itching for one of those games the other day. Like during the finals games were so stressful, you know, watching Phoenix, Milwaukee, and I was like, man, I could go for just a February 17th. Hornets hosting, the Raptors or whatever. I'd love to have that right now in my life. Just some like low stakes regular season NBA basketball.
Well, Lee, it's awesome to have you, man. You have done some really incredible work over at Witch Carolina. One of my traditions has been, since you've been covering this, is your draft board, diving into that, comparing and contrasting. So we're really happy to have you at BuzzBeat, man. And job well done for what you've done so far. And I'm kind of surprised you decided to be a part of, a member of the BuzzBeat crew, so this is awesome.
Couldn't turn it down, man. Couldn't turn it down.
Yeah,
I'm pumped,
this
guys.
is great.
I appreciate it all.
He had a big signing bonus too, Spencer. That
I thought there was some backdoor that I couldn't read into, being an outsider. But that makes more sense.
All right, guys. So thanks again for joining us on YouTube. If you guys have any comments, questions, please put them in the chat and we will post them, get to them. Before we get to kind of the draft news, let's get to this trade real quick with Mason Plumlee. We have some varying opinions here between Brian, Spencer, myself, and Lee. I feel like from our text messages, Brian and Spencer are a little bit lower on this trade. Lee and myself, while not like ecstatic about it, I think we're, maybe try to see some positive out of it. But basically what happened, Hornets traded up 20 spots from the 57th pick to the 37th pick with Detroit. And in addition to that, they acquired center Mason Plumlee. So my initial thoughts with this, guys, is like, on the court, I don't think it's much of an issue. You're going to get a guy that can pass, he can roll, he can cut. He's going to get some touches out of cuts. He's a solid rebounder on both ends of the court. I think he's an underrated rim protector, which Charlotte desperately needs. The biggest implication is on the cap, the salary cap. And maybe Mitch Kupchak never had any intentions of going after Richaun Holmes, but now that they have acquired this guy who is going to be making $8 million for this upcoming season, obviously that's going to hinder their opportunities in the free agent market. So, Spencer, I think maybe you were the one that kind of came out the lowest on this trade, but initial thoughts on this, Spencer?
Yeah, I just think $16 million over 2 years is pretty expensive to move up 20 spots in the second round. Am I excited about the Hornets having the 37th pick? Yeah, certainly I am, because I think, as we've all talked about, I think in past podcasts here, there's a lot of depth in this draft. There's going to be good players there at 37. It's not to say that the Hornets can't get something really, really good at 37. But, yeah, I mean, Plumlee's 31 years old. He could be dead money by next season. He might be dead money this season. I mean, that's not completely off the table. So, it's kind of an old school deal kind of trade, in my opinion, of what I've seen the Hornets do over the years. It's not super creative. Yeah, you get an extra, bite at the apple late in the draft. You take on some money with your cap space. But I would have rather the Hornets go into free agency and sign a guy like Nerlens Noel, even overpay a guy like Nerlens Noel, who I know is going to play and really be productive, barring injury. But we don't know that with Mason. And again, I brought up his age. Think of it this way. They're going to take on $8 million-ish for Mason Plumlee this coming season. They're still paying Nick Batum, who is obviously no longer a member of the Charlotte Hornets. So, it's not inconceivable that the Hornets are flushing away, $16, $17 million in salary. I mean, seriously, when you look at it from a business perspective, it's just like, this is not like if we were getting into the mid first round, even like Lakers at 22, something like that, I would say, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. But pick 37 to take on $16 million salary over the next 2 years, it's hard for me to get on board with that. But happy for Mason Plumlee at age 31 to prove me wrong.
Yeah, it's like I'm a little closer to Spencer. I'm excited about some of the prospects that are going to be in the 37 pick range. Like a good chance that a guy that you have a first round grade on falls to 37. So even if you're not trading into the first round, there's at least that's one sort of way to look at it, but you could look at, Kessler Edwards could fall down there. Aaron Henry could be there. Day'Ron Sharp could somehow fall. Jeremiah Robinson Earl. So there's a lot of guys that could be in that range that would be, really nice players to add. Plumlee, I don't think as a player is totally done yet. Like, we'll see. I mean, I don't think like this year went great in Detroit, but I think for the most part over the last couple of years, he's been a perfectly fine, like good backup center. I like some of the ways you can use him with LaMelo. He's a pretty good passer, so that helps. You can run some offense through him. The only other thing I'm with Spencer. I don't think like you're getting a ton of value out of this. It's interesting for them now to turn the switch and try to be like a dumping ground place to take on salary and add assets, which is something that like we wanted them to do a year ago before the Hayward contract. They opted not to go that route, and now they're doing it. So that's a little interesting. And we'll see how much value they're actually able to squeeze out of this. There's a chance they add a guy that could be in their center rotation, be like a valuable player for them, and draft another good young player at 37. But like Spencer said, no matter what, you're taking on the $16 million over 2 years. Plumlee has a trade kicker that'll kick in as well to bump up that salary for next season a little bit more. And I do, well, for whatever it's worth too, I don't think like this takes them out of the free agency market for centers necessarily. Like maybe Rashawn Holmes wasn't going to come into town already. You weren't going to get Jared Allen. You look around and say like, all right, well, let's trade for this guy. We'll pick up an asset. And if we want, we can still go after Nerlens Noel or one of the other like, slightly cheaper centers that's going to be available on the free agency market. They could look to bring back Cody Zeller. Hell, maybe this means if they have less space, like maybe they'll look to bring back Monk now too. Like I just think they still have some possibilities here, So I'm okay on it, for the most part. But I am excited to see who they're going to pick at 37. They got a good pick with this, in my opinion.
Lee, we'll go to you. We'll definitely get to this question here, Maxton, but Lee, we'll go to you real quick about this trade. Thoughts?
Yeah, on the court, I do like it. I do think that Plumlee is a slight upgrade over Cody Zeller. And to the question, I don't think, and we chatted about this a little bit earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean for sure that we don't retain Cody Zeller. I like the fact that like this adds another like decent offensive connector to our offense, which is full of like pretty good passers, and it kind of keeps that theme going. I like that from an acquisition standpoint. I do think that I wasn't necessarily considering the cap implications, maybe as much as I should have been in my initial reaction. I think those are all really fair and valid points. Past the names that we've kind of thrown around here, Nerlens Noel, Jared Allen, Rashawn Holmes, it gets really thin kind of after those main guys. You're talking Hassan Whiteside. It's just like past that. I mean, Kelly Olynyk, like it gets really shallow after some of those main guys that we would like. So I don't know that there was going to be a play there in free agency. Maybe there still is. I like it on the court. I think it's an upgrade. We've clearly all kind of pontificated about the concerns of the center rotation, and this adds a little bit of depth. Not necessarily like a starter level center, but a nice add. And then to Brian's point, you move up in the draft. I'd love to see Charlotte take a swing at a point of attack defender at some point in this draft. Whether that's Aaron Henry that Brian mentioned, Aaron Wiggins from Maryland, Raekwon Gray maybe late in the draft, like somebody that gives us like some on-the-ball defensive juice. I'd love to see them take a swing at one of these guys, and maybe they will at 36 or maybe they will late in the draft.
Yeah. Kessler Edwards known more for his team defense, and I don't think Kessler Edwards is going to be there at 37, but he's an excellent team defender, like really, really good rotationally. Not bad on the ball, has versatility. I don't think he'll be there at 37, but he's another guy that could conceivably be there. Aaron Henry's definitely going to be there. He's a guy that I thought the Hornets, if he had stayed in the draft last year, that I thought Charlotte should have kicked the can on at 32. He came back and was even better this year at Michigan State, like evolved offensively a little bit. So he's another guy that would really give them some punch at the point of attack, can really fight, get over screens. So and can spot up and shoot and like play make a little bit too. So he's a guy that I would really circle if they're going, wing defender in that range, perhaps.
Before we shift,
one more name I want to bring.
Go ahead, Spencer.
Sorry, while we're talking about 37, Neemias Queta out of Utah State.
Yeah,
not a wing defender, center, longest, tallest center. I think people realize that at the combine. I have a feeling that Charlotte might be targeting him at 37. Sorry, Richard, go ahead.
That would make a lot of sense, too. We talked about him. We talked about Queta on the last pod a little bit, too.
Yeah, and I believe he's worked out with Charlotte, so they've got a firsthand experience with him. Before we get away from this Mason Plumlee free agent talk and we fully shift our conversation over to the draft as it approaches number 11, to this question here, does that mean Cody Zeller is gone? I think we can all agree no, it doesn't necessarily, rule him out coming back, but also Cody Zeller is unrestricted. He's going to want to go somewhere to compete. He was even on, I think, the Woj podcast, I believe, and he talked about that, how he wants to go to a top 4 team in the East or a top 4 team in the West and be a team that is consistently competing night in and night out for a playoff spot. He thinks that is a winning basketball team. Now, my question becomes, and I was kind of talking to Brian before we started recording, even though Mason Plumlee is not a starter level center, I mean, who is going to be our starting center next year, considering the fact that we just ate up $8 million of cap space, and you're not going to be able to get a Rashawn Holmes, barring some kind of miracle. Maybe Nerlens Noel could be, gettable in free agency, but would you get let's say the Hornets were to grab a Nerlens Noel? Is Nerlens Noel your starter, or is that $8 million Mason Plumlee your starter?
I think you start Nerlens and you get the defense and the run, jump, lob guy, and then Plumlee is the guy that you bring in the second unit and he plays with Devontae, assuming you resign Devontae Graham, and those guys are your sort of like offensive catalysts off the bench. And then depending on what you need to close the game out, if you need shooting and small ball, you play PJ. Yeah. If you need rim protection, you play Nerlens. And if you need offensive, a little more, passing or whatever out there, you can, in screen setting, you can go Plumlee. So like, obviously I'd rather just have like Rashawn Holmes, than that. Yeah. But like, I think it would be sort of piecemeal style like that. I think that's how you'd go into it. And I guess this would also allow us to just like further perpetuate the Miles Turner to Charlotte rumors for, another year of will they or won't they with Miles Turner here.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to kind of lean where Brian's going here. I think it's definitely a possibility Charlotte still adds another center in free agency and kind of, in the dumpster diving variety, if you will. So you get Mason on, a little rich for my blood, but we'll see what a Nerlens Noel type would be. And then with these 2 picks, 11 and 37, you really swing for the fences, right? You go for, let's say, a Moses Moody's there at 11, and at 37, let's just say the most athletic guy in the draft is there, Greg Brown. And so now you've really used your draft on the young players that could, in 3 or 4 seasons, really change your franchise. So I think that it's possible. We'll find out here shortly, but it's possible that's kind of the path that Charlotte's thinking about.
And with the draft, there's always been these rumors with trading.
Just Richie, real quickly, last prediction on starting center for next season. Not Nick Richards. Not Nick Richards.
Bold.
I think actually the Hornets have signaled to us they've given up on Nick Richards.
yeah.
I think that's a possibility.
It's funny. Lee was high on Nick Richards higher on Nick.
I'm still holding out hope. Guys.
All right, we'll see.
Yeah. What I was getting at as we approach the 11th pick here, Josh Giddey just went to the Oklahoma City Thunder, which I think is a surprise to most people. Not that he's a bad prospect, but just because I don't think there was any kind of linkage between those 2 teams. It didn't seem like anybody was mocking him to OKC, and it looks like Golden State is on the clock here about to announce their pick.
Kuminga to Golden State. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, I like Giddey to Oklahoma City. I think he in SGA, I mean, I don't know if that's what they're going to build around or whatever, but that's a pretty fun backcourt to add Giddey's playmaking and vision and passing next to Gilgeous-Alexander. I like Giddey a good bit as a prospect.
I would add real quickly with Giddey off the board, Memphis at 10 becomes, really changes Charlotte's draft because I think that's who Memphis wanted.
Yeah, well, then I guess like Moody comes into play. We'll see if Book Knight is still around at 10 too, right? Like that's another guy you could see Memphis maybe taking a swing on at 10 if he's still around. But yeah, I don't know. This could mean Moody is off the board before Charlotte picks at 11.
And kind of in that same vein of does this mean Cody Zeller isn't back? Not necessarily. I also don't think it necessarily means we still don't take a big at 11. Şengün may be there. Isaiah Jackson definitely will be there. Kai Jones may be there. It's going to be really interesting to see how this unfolds in front of Charlotte here. Giddey's definitely probably the surprise. I guess Barnes at 4 would be a little bit of a surprise too. I know, Brian, you enjoy Giddey's kind of half court passing manipulation and his ability to kind of spray the ball around out of the pick and roll. Oklahoma City's got a wild young roster right now. Giddey,
they do. Oku, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see when they're able to get a guy like Cunningham or to get a guy like Mobley or just one of these guys that they know, okay, we're drafting this guy, so we're getting him as a rookie from day one, and we think he's a cornerstone. And I mean, that's they only got SGA a year after that, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like they're sort of just spinning the wheels until they can get a guy like that via trade or even better set through the draft. But yeah, you're right. I think Baisley has had some nice flashes for the Thunder too. As a do it all hybrid forward. So yeah, no, they've got some.
Brown had some.
Yes, not guarding pick and roll against Charlotte this year when they played out in Oklahoma City, but he is obviously huge. And they just got a lot of good young players, interesting players on that roster. And yeah, obviously Wagner going to Orlando at number 8. So I like what Orlando did this draft, getting Suggs 5, Wagner 8, solid.
And they just broke Sacramento's heart there.
They did. Yeah. Oh boy.
Sacramento can use some defense. I wonder if they go Moses Moody here.
They could. That's exactly my thought. Yep.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense to go Moody here.
Yes, but we have our preferences scrolling down at the bottom of the video here. And I was doing this with the intention of the fact that they would attack Rashawn Holmes in free agency. So Moody and Book Knight are my top 2 preferences. And I think Book Knight could very well be there for Charlotte. My third preference is to trade back. There's been some rumors about that. But looks like Lee and Spencer both have Sengun at number 1.
Welcome aboard, Lee.
Yeah, welcome aboard. I can't fully get there. I just can't because of his defense. Lee, can you you did a deep dive recently on him, watching some video. Can you try to sell me on Sengun?
Yeah, so I mean, look, admittedly, like I was still cramming for this draft within the last week. There's just, you got to try and get eyes on like 150 guys. And I watched Sengun early in the process and kind of resigned to some of the, the defensive concerns and the foot speed. And he's kind of just like this plodding, cumbersome offensive, foreign big. And going back on a deeper dive this week, like, don't get me wrong, like his offense is light years ahead of his defense. There's no doubt about that. And those concerns are still valid to a point. I think I was incredibly pleasantly surprised. He's like a much more active mover, I think, than I originally realized. I think a little bit of the foot speed stuff is being overblown. I like the way he gets vertical around the rim and rim protects. And I realize like he's not going up against NBA caliber athletes, but the Turkish Super League is really good. I mean, the team that I was watching him against most recently had Kyle Wilcher and Sam Decker, like guys that had, a little bit more than a cup of coffee in the NBA. So I guess, the offensive skills are like pretty undeniable. He's a fantastic passer. He's got every post move in the book at 18 years old. He's a pretty decent athlete, and he can finish on the rim. So once I saw like a little bit more of the athletic movement and his ability to get vertical around the rim, I just like fully got on board the train late and moved him way up my board.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everything Lee just said. I mean, I just think the guy's an offensive genius. At 18 years old, to watch what he does already, it's like, I know genius is a very strong word, but it's just hard not to like kind of fall at that conclusion. I think Memphis, I mean, Lee just laid it out perfectly. I think Memphis is the absolute perfect landing spot for him. I think he gives them something in the half court that they just don't have right now. They got a bunch of athletes on that team. They're very young. We know what Morant is as an athlete in transition. We'll see where the shot goes. But like that team needs somebody that stabilizes their half court offense. And I think Sengun is absolutely perfect. So selfishly, I'm disappointed. Well, I'll be very thrilled if they decide to pass on him. I just don't think they would. They shouldn't, in my opinion. But yeah, I think Sengun at his age, what he did in Turkey, the motor he plays with, the energy, active hands on defense. I know it's ugly now. His footwork is just an absolute mess. But I think he will get to a place that's acceptable. And I'll go ahead and say it. I think he's more comparable to Kevin Love than anything else that I've seen out there, and I think he has a chance to be better than Kevin Love. I'll just come out and say it.
Yeah, we'll see where the shooting. We'll see where the shooting projection goes. Like I buy Sengun as like a shooter. I think the key is going to be like, can he ever get to the volume and efficiency and the release of Kevin Love, who was one of the more impactful floor spacing big guys.
And a quick twitch shooter too.
Yeah. In the first half of his career was a double machine and one of the best, rebounders we had too. As far as like the post game goes with Sengun, like the offensive feel is good. The chest work, the footwork, his touch, good hands, the post counters. I really like that little quick spin maneuver he has. Clearly he processes the game on a pretty special level. And I think that's sort of like the defining characteristic is just like how smoothly he sees the game. I like his on-off ball activity. I like his ability to be like a DHO tower, to work in two-man game. I think there's a lot of cool ways Charlotte could incorporate him offensively if he was the pick at 11 with some of their 5-out concepts that they like to run. I am not to the point where I think like Sengun is like irredeemably bad defensively. Like I don't go there. I don't think he's the worst defensive center in this class or anything like that. Like that to me is a little too much, because I think the activity, which Lee and Spencer mentioned, is not too bad. And it seems like he's maybe a little undersized, but hopefully he's still growing. I think another thing that would be kind of important for Sengun is, can he get quicker than he is right now? I think that's going to actually be like a really sort of big deal for him. And unless we can like answer these questions sort of like definitively with his defense, it brings up issues with scalability with his offense and just like how much can he be on the court to unleash what is a very, very good offensive game and what is a guy that should be able to just immediately breathe life into an offense because he can score on the block. The passing is real. He projects to be a good shooter. He can make plays on the short roll. Can he either be able to float around and guard fours on the perimeter, or can he actually like anchor a defense? And if he can't do that, is he able to provide enough surplus value offensively to sort of offset that? And then can you like team build around that to paper over some of the limitations? But so like, I am not like anti-Sengun pick at 11. I have my concerns, but I like, again, the offensive upside and skill and profile is obviously very impressive.
And I think if you drafted Sengun at 11, I think we could rule out Cody Zeller. What just happened?
Davion Mitchell, number 9 to Sacramento.
All right. Charlotte is going to have their pick of the litter here.
Yeah.
Please be Moody. Please be Moses Moody. That's who I'm hoping.
Moody Mafia, baby. Come on down to Charlotte here.
Memphis, I don't know. Memphis could use outside shooting more than anything. But
I think there's a very good chance Memphis takes Moody here.
Yeah. They just traded up to this pick too as well, which is
Man, there's a lot of guys here. I mean,
Charlotte is going to have a lot of options here, and I'm sure that draft room just went into a little bit of a frizzy.
Keon Johnson's still kicking around. Kai Jones, Moses Moody, Sengun, obviously.
Book night, Kispert.
Kispert, Jared Butler. Obviously, like my guy Jaden Springer still around. I don't think he's going to be the pick, but man, I really wish Jaden Springer was the pick at 11. But yeah, they've got 7 or 8 guys that I think you can feel pretty comfortable with. Even Zaire Williams, I still really I buy him as a prospect. I know he needs to get stronger. 11's maybe a little bit of a reach for him, but I think you could justify a top 11 pick on Zaire Williams just because he's such an underrated defender, and that shot of his is just so pure. And I don't want to read too much into the numbers at Stanford because he had a really shitty situation playing college ball this year. So
I would say real quickly, I wouldn't be surprised if Charlotte's phones are ringing hot right now.
Dustin agrees with you in the comments here.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So yes. So all the players you guys just mentioned, I'm sure that there are teams in the mid first round, late first round, in between those two that are calling Charlotte right now and be like, what's it going to take to get up? And I would think Sengun's kind of like he's the treasure there, but who knows? Maybe Moses Moody is the treasure for other teams. So this is when I get very nervous about the Charlotte Hornets and the NBA.
I know we're talking about the Hornets, but Mitchell's an interesting fit in Sacramento. No, like they've already got Fox. They have Halliburton.
Don't say that, Brian.
It's a little weird, right? Bobby Marks is out. Bobby Marks is very happy. Bobby Marks just said Sacramento nailed the pick, so case closed on that one. But it's interesting.
I will respectfully disagree. I don't love respect, but
yeah, agreed.
Somebody get Spencer a towel. He's a little nervous over there.
Oklahoma City, come on down. 16 and 18, 11. And then Charlotte gets
why not? You got all these picks in the future.
Yeah.
Come on. You know you want Sengun.
Charlotte gets Jaden Springer and Sengun or Jared Butler or whatever at 16 and 18. That would be pretty tasty, honestly. That'd be real tasty if that were to happen.
Now I wonder if Washington, who had just picked up the 22nd pick from the Lakers, if 15 and 22. Are they allowed to trade that 22nd pick?
Yes, they can flip that. And I thought about that earlier. Yeah, Washington 15-22 they're a shark here for sure.
That's a great call too.
Yeah,
but my preference is if Moody's off the board and Memphis takes him, I would be willing to trade down to Oklahoma City. I'd be willing to trade down with Washington.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, if they did trade back hypothetically to that 15-16 range, one of the guys that they have a positive thumbs up grade for at 11 is going to fall to one of those picks. You know what I mean? Which is
just mathematically.
Yeah, exactly. Too many guys. Mitchell going top 10 it changes a lot of things pretty quickly. I feel like.
Shout out to Mark Stein, but it's pretty crazy that the Wizards traded Westbrook and Max Scherzer in the same night. Oh, sorry, that was the Nationals that traded Scherzer. Sorry,
Wait,
the baseball deadline and the
Did they trade Scherzer? Oh, dude,
going to the Padres. Yeah,
my buddy Ross is the biggest Nats fan.
They
took Zaire.
Oh, I mean, literally, the Hornets have anything they want here.
Come on now.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
So I just said it a second ago. I think you could justify a top 10 pick with on Zaire Williams.
You called that, Brian. You just called.
How long do we have? I need to go get some air real quick.
Oh my gosh.
That's
crazy. I was
crazy.
gonna say you guys were mentioning a few prospects that teams might be kind of itching to get up and grab. This is not a guy that I'm personally super high on, but I think a ton of teams like James Bouknight. I think there would be some teams that would inquire on moving up for him.
It's just like he may have been there. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch to say Zaire would be there at 17, but like I don't think that's like inconceivable for them to have thought that. But yeah,
this makes that Pelicans Grizzlies trade even more confusing to me. I kind of lean towards the Grizzlies winning that trade, but that pick is not now. I think. Not that at all.
Yeah, Woj is out here saying Memphis moved up to 10. That basically, I think, intimating that they wanted Zaire Williams, and that like maybe there was going to be some competition for him in the 10 to 17, 16 range or whatever. So
I also heard that Memphis was trading up to 10 to then trade up again. Like that those are the rumors that I've also heard as well. But maybe that was like yesterday's rumors. And maybe
the amount of like information and disinformation that's come out this week has been like just dizzying, man. Just whiplash, literally every hour.
I like Zaire a good bit. Like, I mean, he's 6'10", he's a wing, he can put it on the floor, he can shoot it. Like, what's there not to like? But you watch some of that film, it was super ugly at Stanford. You better really, really, really trust your player development to draft that guy at number 10.
I think he's got maybe the prettiest jump shot in the class. Gorgeous, high, like Devin Vassell height type release, you know. He's got to get a lot stronger. That will help him with the rim finishing, and that will help him with getting over screens defensively, which he ends up getting caught on way too many screens this season. But like, I still buy him. I don't think it's that much of a reach at 10. I think he can be a really impactful two-way guy that can give you some shooting, has some space creation with the basketball, and really could be, like, if he gets stronger, could be a real terror, like defensively at the point of attack, and just like the versatility, the team defense, I think could be pretty darn good for Zaire. But he's gonna have to get a lot stronger and healthy.
It sounds like, at least judging from like our facial reactions, it sounds like Spencer and Brian might be ahead of me and Richie on the stream a little bit. So
yeah. I just wait for Spencer and Brian to make the notification. They're probably
okay. Just making sure we're on the same page here because we're hot on the clock, right?
Yeah, we are. Yes, we are.
We're on it.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
anything can happen here.
Fascinating guy.
Moody would be such a great pick, man. It would be such a good pick.
All right, can we do like 5 seconds? Go. Who everybody would take? I'll go first.
Yeah. Let's do it. Rapid fire style.
Sangoon, Lee, go.
Shingun.
He's getting a little hesitant here, thinking Moody might be there. Moody Mafia. I'm a card carrying member. Bring me Moses Moody to Charlotte. Jaden Springer, I would be very happy with as well.
Yeah, Moody for me. He was my number one guy at number 11, and I actually didn't think you'd be here. I actually thought he'd get drafted somewhere between 9 and 10 there. But
I'd be super happy with Kispert too, though. I would love Corey Kispert. I know y'all aren't quite as high on him.
No,
I'm with you.
I could live with Kispert as well. Although I'd be more amenable to that if Moses Moody wasn't still on the board, though. Does that make sense? Although, Lee, a couple weeks ago, I think, Spencer, you were part of this as well. The three of us went back and forth on Twitter about Moody versus Kispert as well. So it's we're seeing it play out here in real time with the Hornets. It's interesting.
Is there a wild card here? Is there a one? Is there? Could we go somewhere?
Sure, there is. Kai Jones, Jaden Springer. I mean, just to get it started. Sure. I mean, you can never count the Hornets out of a good old wild card pick.
Dayron Sharp coming there.
Oh God, my computer explode right in front of me.
Yeah. Oh God.
All right, now we're just like we don't know what to
who's
say.
the Alexis Ajinka that we could go get.
Oh God. Book night would be kind of I think one of you guys mentioned book night. I could kind of live with that, but I think I would prefer Moody over all these other names we're throwing out there, including Springer, Book Knight, Şengün, Kispert, all of whom I think would be good picks. But yeah, I think I take Moody over that.
It's funny.
Taking a while.
Yeah, if the Hornets did draft Book Knight, and maybe this is the case anyway, I think that Monk's gone. Like Book Knight to me, I've compared Book Knight to Monk, just with his rim finishing, the fact that he can be a shifty ball handler at times. He's got some off-ball movement. I know a lot of people are not as high on Book Knight, but it seems like he got some like late jumpage where like he was projected to go 6, 7, 8 at some point. The fact that he was an OKC darling for a week now. Which obviously now you look back on, you're like, okay, that was a smoke.
His agent was working overtime the last few weeks. I really feel like that because his name was really popping. A fair amount actually.
To throw this scenario out there, I would actually rather have Monk on a second deal, which will be affordable. At least, his $16 million cap hold throws you off the scent, but he's not going to cost anything close to that. And now that the Hornets have taken on $8 million in Mason Plumlee's salary, they've already eaten into that salary. So I would rather have Monk at age, I don't know, what is he, 22, 23, being in the league, 23 years old, being in the league this long, than taking on Book Knight. I would rather find a way to re-sign him.
Yeah, Monk has also been like pretty darn good the last two seasons. Like, I know
when he's out there,
not all the numbers bear that out, but I've done like a rewatch of some of his best games from this season, and admittedly that's it's a biased sample, but holy moly, man, he had some just unbelievable offensive performances for Charlotte. And I'm not talking about just like he went nuclear and hit a bunch of jumpers. Like playmaking was really
Creator.
Good, team defense, all that sort of stuff. So.
It's funny how like the national
year than he shot the ball better this year than he had in any previous season.
Yeah, I didn't buy the 3-point slump a season ago. I also think his like hand or thumb on his right hand was like messed up last season. It was bandaged the whole year.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just didn't. Every other year going back pre-Kentucky, and then all other 3 of his 4 NBA seasons, he's been like a good to very good 3-point shooter.
The one thing that like you really like only Hornets fans like if you watch the games would know is that he is a good playmaker. But like the national media just seeing some tweets about him, deep dark Twitter, tweets is like, but he's not a playmaker. It's like you don't watch the games then.
Dude,
yes, he is. He is a playmaker.
Like a versatile playmaker too.
Right.
Like in transition connector, second side pick and roll, like the pin down playmaking. He does it. He just does it in a bunch of different ways. Here we go. James Book Knight.
Wow. Wow.
He just let out a sigh.
Yeah.
Well, look, I don't even know where to start, to be honest. Supremely talented offensive scorer. I mean, seriously, this guy can fill it up. I said it on the podcast in the past. I think he has a chance to be a real volume scorer in the league and a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I do buy the shot. He has a pretty stroke. It's very fluid. It looks natural. I know the percentage, give or take 30%, somewhere around that at UConn. Like that team did not have spacing, had a lot of athletes, but didn't have spacing. I buy Book Knight being a good player and a good scorer in the league. I don't like this pick. I don't like this pick here. I think it's not what Charlotte needed, and this certainly signals exactly what we were just talking about Malik Monk is not going to be a Charlotte Hornet next year.
And that could have been the case regardless, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been the case regardless, but like, there's no way they're going to re-sign Malik Monk now after they drafted James Book Knight. They were obviously disappointed in Monk. And they wanted to move on, and they wanted to drop that. So what this also signals is, you can get rid of that $16 million cap hold. Now you have Book Knight in there. Now you have, depending on a few different things, anywhere from $12 to $15 million in cap space. I don't know. He's not the highest ceiling player left on the board. And with all these guys falling, I would have liked to see Charlotte really swing here.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the Hornets outside of the center position is that they needed two-way guys. And I think Book Knight right now on the defensive side of the court, that's probably where I see a lot of his issues just in terms of like getting lost off ball. I think he does have a tendency to do that, almost like Miles Bridges did his first couple of years in Charlotte. He does lock in at times when he's on the ball. I think that's where probably you're going to see his biggest asset on defense is on the ball. But to me, like he's one of the best finishers, like out of any prospect in this draft. He can like contort his body, great finisher around the rim. That's a very big asset for him. And I think right now, when it comes to his offensive game, he's going to be able to kind of create shots for himself because he's so shifty and he can do in and out dribbles and string together a couple of different types of moves. And we all talk about his off-ball movement as well. I think that's probably one of his more underrated aspects. But right now, his shooting, and if maybe you don't buy the shooting, maybe you do buy the shooting, but the off-ball movement combined with the off-ball shooting, it kind of doesn't really add up because he's a good off-ball mover, but he hasn't really done a good job of shooting the ball when it comes to catch and shoot situations. So he actually was my second preference here behind Moody. I know that Spencer's a little bit lower on this. I do wonder, I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong, but maybe they're drafting for somebody else. But again, that's always in the back of my mind. That's always in the back of my mind.
So I'll say this with Book Knight. The sell with him is athletic combo guard with scoring pop, who can play make some, not that advanced of a passer. You know, he's not like making layered reads, real simple, sort of like one pass away stuff. Come off a screen, look to score, look for the roll man. If nothing's there, you know, kick it back out and keep it moving. But a dynamic off-ball mover and scorer. I can think of a lot of creative ways that James Borrego could feature him offensively. Think of a lot of the stuff that like they use with Terry Rozier. Well, you could try that with James Book Knight as well. But sprinting around screens, using those actions to ramp up and get into his scoring maneuvers, good footwork to set those actions up, good pace, use of force. He's functionally strong, stronger than he looks, actually, I think, and does a nice job using angles. Very explosive vertical athlete. Like Richie said, he can contort and finish with some good smoothness, has nice touch around the rim, good body control. Really some like pretty impressive like creative finishes, absorbing contact, moving the ball around this season, touching it off the glass. I think some people see him as like an instant offensive guy that can heat up quickly and cook out of the pick and roll. But he is really more of this sort of like off-ball wing scoring type, right? So that's an interesting archetype to put next to LaMelo. And I think we saw it with some success with Terry Rozier this season. With
Rozier,
yeah. Despite the athletic traits that we just mentioned, pretty limited defensively, which Richie touched on, messes up his team defense assignments all the time. But I really do think the on-ball half-court movement stuff is interesting. And it's a spot where just like, look, he's going to have to excel at that early and often in his NBA career. You know, once he comes off those screens, what exactly can he do? You know, can he use that stuff to apply rim pressure? Can he hit threes coming off movement? Can he make some very simple reads and hit roll guys and stuff like that? So, you know, it's an okay pick. I don't think it's the most inspired one. I think Moody, the wingspan, the 3-and-D archetype, I think the fact that Moody has some, you know, I think the high end outcome for Moody is higher than one for Book Knight, who's older than Moody too. So it's okay, but I do like the off ball movement, shooting, and I think it makes sense on Charlotte's roster. Unfortunately, it could also be the thing that cost you know, Malik Monk, which would be a bummer for me because I'll never stop buying Malik as a talent. And as a guy that can really be a difference maker actually in the NBA.
Yeah, look, I mean, full disclosure, I was lower on Book Knight than most. If I'm trying to talk myself into this pick, I think it's a couple things. It's what Brian says, like this is a guard with some size on the wing, and if Charlotte was or is going to bring back Graham, Monk, and still have Rozier, those are obviously three like diminutive guards in our backcourt, and we've kind of talked ad nauseum about how that coexists into the future. So it makes sense from that standpoint. It just hurts with two big time shooters on the board that fell to 11 that we pass on them. If the shooting comes online with Book Knight, which I'm bearish on it, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. If the shooting comes online, I think that changes the calculus for like his ability to create in the half court. And you could be looking at a pretty special, size combo guard. My concern and my concern in Charlotte's offense is he's a little bit of a ball stopper. He was like an ISO creator a lot of times at UConn. He wanted to put the ball on the floor 3 or 4 different times, shake, wiggle, get downhill. I just don't know how that fits with kind of the creators and the offensive connectors and like the way the ball just pops around in Charlotte's offense. That's where I get a little hung up. But by tomorrow, I'll talk myself into this. I'm just a little bummed right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to kind of thread the needle in between what Brian and Lee said there is, Josh Primo, holy moly.
12. Whoa.
My gosh. I mean, I had him high on my board, but good Lord.
This draft is wild.
It is wild. And all signs were pointing towards that. But, I mean, what you guys said, like Brian brings up, and Brian, you've been tooting the horn on this for a while with him. He can play off the ball. He is a very smart, high IQ mover off the ball, using screens, getting to his spots, getting to a space that gives him an open shot. And Lee, he is a little bit of a ball stopper, right? Like he does like to pound it. I think some of that was a little bit of, again, UConn's offense, what they needed. I don't know. I mean, this is a little bit of a player development bet here for Charlotte. And the last thing I'll say, I don't know what this means for Terry Rozier, but it probably doesn't mean that he's re-signed or extended because I think this would be sort of a replacement. Like they're not a perfect facsimile, but they're close enough to, it makes me think that like, okay, here's Rozier on an expiring contract. Charlotte's like, we'll see what happens, but they're geared and ready to cash out on that expiring contract this next summer, or excuse me, this next season.
Deadline. Yeah.
Trade deadline if it comes up. So yeah, I'm going to have to watch a lot more film, I'll be honest. I watched a good enough, enough of Book Night to have a good feel for it, but I need to dig in deeper because this is not what I was hoping for.
Yeah, you were watching too many Turkish games over there, Spencer. Too many Turkish games.
You're right about that. That and a lot of Arkansas games, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're going to wrap up here. We're probably going to come back on when they pick at number 37, assuming they're still at 37. We're going to wrap up with our first round conversation, and we'll let you guys know if we hop back on YouTube. So thanks again for tuning in, and we will check you guys later.